Everyone's always asking me how I get my crazy filter effects, halftime effects, breakdowns, basically anything in a section of a beat where it morphs and it transforms and it does some crazy stuff. That is exactly what we're going to be breaking down today. So let's get right into this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is probably group all of your stuff together. So as you can see, I have all my melodies in a melody group. I have my kick and 808 separate, which is totally fine. And then I have all my drums in a group. And this is actually going to be really perfect for doing these filter effects and different effects like that. So me personally, I like to do my effects on this third set of 8 bars right here in the drop. The reason that is because I want the drop to come back in afterwards so it can hit super hard right when it comes back in and it reintroduces the beat as it's supposed to exist. And because I don't want to put it at the very beginning, because I want you to feel the drop first before I add some crazy effects and start warping the beat in crazy ways. Alright, so we're going to jump in and start doing the melodies first. And I'm going to go ahead and use this plugin called Phase Mistress. And what it's doing is it's just messing with the different phases, mutating them in the melody as it progresses. So this is what that sounds like. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. But we're also going to want to go ahead and filter out maybe the highs and lows in that section. So let's do that too. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a Pro Q3 right here. Any EQ will work. And then we're going to go ahead and do this section here. So let's go ahead and just chop out the lows. And then I'm going to go ahead and chop out some of the highs too, because I don't want it to be so pronounced. Alright, so you can see that I actually pulled it back a little bit more than I would normally have. We're doing that on purpose because we're actually going to modulate it as it goes. As it goes, it's going to start to open up and allow more of those frequencies to come through. So let's start doing that right now. So now you can see I got 2 plugins that we're going to use in this part. So let's go ahead and group them together. All I did was select both of them and press Command G, which would be Control G on Windows. And now we have it in an audio effect rack. So now we can turn them both off and on at the same time. So as I'm turning that off and on, you might be able to see this line going up and down over here. And if not, just go ahead and click on this button right here. That'll switch you between the modulations or not. So now that we got this button playing, we can go ahead and modulate it on and off in that spot that we want. So we'll modulate it on right here. Oh, let's move this over and then we'll modulate it off. So now it's only going to play in that section. So now we're going to open this up and we want to modulate this so that it starts opening up a little bit as it progresses. So if you start moving this, by default, Ableton's going to show you exactly what you're moving. So it says right here, band 2 frequency. Perfect. So let's go ahead and grab that now. And then we can go ahead and make a line at the end here. And then we'll start moving it up progressively. Okay, so we took it from our starting point here. We made it so that it's going all the way up towards the end of it. And now it's sounding pretty dope. This is what we got. Alright, so let's move on to the bass components now. So in this version, I'm just going to go ahead and take out the kick. Sometimes I'll use it, like for instance, if we do a halftime effect, I'll keep the kick in there because you can get some cool results using the kick. So if we solo it with the 808, this is what we got right now. So it sounds good like that, but if we want to change it up and make it sound like it's underwater or it's in the background or doing something crazy, we want to actually filter that 808. So what we're going to do is throw an EQ on here, and we're going to go ahead and chop out some of the highs in it now. And let's see where it's going to start to sound good, like it's in the background. Keep in mind that I made a separate EQ. We're not going to use one that I'm already using. We're going to use a completely different one because we're going to be modulating this one. Okay, so we're looking at the band 1 frequency right here, and it's looking good. So let's go ahead and we're just going to place it where it starts and then 1 where it ends. That's a good habit just to get into. And then probably at this last quarter right here. So let's see. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back up to normal. And then we're even going to do this little swoop. So if you hold down Option, otherwise it's going to be Alt on Windows, Option on Mac, and then you go ahead and hold it while you're moving this up and down, you can actually make sort of a tilt. So let's listen to it and see how it's starting to sound. So let's go ahead and maybe we'll just bring it back just a little bit more just to refine it and get it perfect there. We want it just to come back right at the end. We don't want it to be too noticeable. All right, so we're going to do our due diligence here, and we're going to go ahead and put the frequency back all the way up right before it and at the very end too, just in case. And another thing we're going to do is automate the on and off of this as well, just to do our checks here. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing like we did in the first one. We'll make it go off and on at the right spot. All right, so next we're doing these drums, but I got some crazy ideas for these. We're gonna change it up and do it a little bit different than the other things. All right, so I got this crazy plugin called Rift by Minimal Audio, and it does some crazy modulated distortion and different crazy things. So I'm gonna go through some of these presets here and find one that does something crazy to the drums, and we're gonna use that as part of our filtering effect. All right, I'm liking how this one sounds, but let's go ahead and turn down the output because that's another thing is we don't want it to be louder with the effects on versus normal. And you might have to use your ears for this because like when you're adding distortions and stuff like that, it might not actually physically add dBs that are noticeably visual, but it could be adding to the sound as well. So feel free to add as many effects as you want to do. I actually ended up putting another thing of Rift on here with this chop and swell. It gave it some sort of like left to right echoey effect. It's starting to sound like this now. All right, so we're also going to throw another EQ on here as well and do our thing with that. But let's go ahead and select all these plugins now, and we can go ahead and group them again. And then we can do the on and off. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and see how much of the highs or lows that we even want to take out of these drums. All right, so we'll go ahead and take that out. We're going to do something a little bit different with the automation of this one than we did for the last one. So let's go ahead and move this back and forth so that Ableton knows this is the thing we're trying to automate here. And then we'll go ahead and place our points right here as we always do. Go ahead and put them up on each side just to make sure absolutely everything is covered. And then we're going to do our quarter thing in here as well, where we go up. But what we're going to do is we're going to lift this part up a little bit too, so it's going to transcend ever so slightly, but at the very end it's going to do its last little bit. And then holding down Option or Alt, we're also going to put a little bit of a curve in here as well. All right, so there's definitely a couple things that need to be tweaked and cleaned up, so let's do that now. The first thing I'm noticing is that too much of the highs are in this melody part. I want to take more of it out. I want to sound like it's being filtered way more than that. So let's start with that. First off, let's turn this down a little bit more here. Awesome, and I'm going to do that quarter step like we did right here. I'm going to go ahead and put something in here, and just so that the incline can be slower. And then at the very end, we do like the major all the way up and back to normal sort of a deal. All right, so we got that, just cleaned it up ever so slightly, made it way better. And then you also might notice when we listen to the preview that there was a clipping sound on some of these. So what you can do is you can listen to it before and after to see if it's coming. So from the melodies, we're good to go. You can tell just by listening for a pop right here. No pop there, so we're good to go. It's definitely from the 808s. So you can hear there's a little bit of a click there, and there's a couple things that you can do to fix that. Either you could take the 808s out right at the end there, or we can go ahead and automate this a little bit more. So maybe we bring the on, we'll turn it on a little bit earlier, but now we're going to automate the dry and wet on it. Or, better yet, what we can do is we can automate this again, so we can go all the way up with it. So now that we know where it's at right here, it's at 104. What we can do is we can take that line that we just turned it on at, and then we can go ahead and press this off, and now it's going to be a steep curve. So let's listen to how that would sound. So there we go. We fixed that little problem. Now let's go ahead and move on to the drums. Nice size clip in that one, and we're going to do something very similar to what we just did here. So we're going to take the on and off right here. We're going to move it back just a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to automate the dry wet on these different riff plugins that we have here. So we'll go right here to Rift, and we'll play with this dry or wet. Right now it's at 30, so now we know. And we'll go from 0 up to that 30 mark, or 31, whatever. And we're going to do that same thing with the second one. So we're going to take it back to this point. We'll just make sure that it comes in right there. Now let's see if that fixed the issue. Perfect. Just like that, we fixed that little poppy sound that's going to happen when it first introduces. So I actually thought it sounded nicer when I took the kick and 808 out, even though we did that little thing there. All right, so what we're going to do really quick is go ahead and throw a riser in here to let everybody know that it's coming along. And since we have all of our things grouped up, we can actually make an audio track outside of our drums, 808, and leads, so it's not being affected by anything. And then we can go ahead and throw something in right here that leads into it. And then, guys, you can feel free to add something at the end of it as well. Like you can see, I have a crash symbol. As soon as this next as soon as it comes out of the effects, it's going to hit this crash symbol. I already had these in here because I structured my beat like that. But you can go ahead and put a crash symbol or something right there to smash right when it comes back in, and it's going to add all that impact when all the drums and everything come fully back into the mix. All right, so let's take a listen to what this sounds like in context now. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you guys are liking the content that we're making over here and you want to support the channel, feel free to grab the new drum kit linked in the description below. We just made a new drum kit like a month or two ago. It's got like all the sounds and everything you're ever going to need in it for trap music, for making beats, whatever it is. So now that you got these crazy filter effects in your beats, the only thing left to do is to master your beats so you can finish that bad boy, dust it off, and call it a day. So I actually just stole a mastering chain from Superstaro and I just released it in a video. So if you want to see that before it gets taken down, I hope it doesn't get taken down. But if you want to see that saucy video so that you know how to master your beats every time, check it out right here. We're going to leave a video right here for you guys. Go ahead and click on that one next and watch that bad boy. And besides that, we'll be catching you guys again in the next one. Peace out.